Yeah, I think the mindfulness thing is vital. If you can just live in mindfulness, like I truly think being enlightened is like the greatest, most boring thing in the world. Like imagine you're enlightened and like I'm just touching this cup and there's not a second that I'm like not with this cup
Not in the
touching,
moment. Yeah.
and I'm not even there's coffee in the mug, but I'm not thinking about the coffee. I'm just fully with it and feeling everything. And then the coffee hits and I just taste it and I take a sip. And the caffeine doesn't even, I'm not even in it for the caffeine. I'm just in it for flavor. I'm just in it for the moment. Like, it's got to be so boring, I would think. It's just got to be like the most boring thing that exists. Like, you're tying your shoe and you're like stoked about tying your shoe.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's an offshoot. That's a
Well,
total.
no, because I mean, I agree with you too. And it's like I said, I was so overstimulated. The only way that I really felt good was just like doing that, just having that sole focus being whatever was present in front of you, and not adding more things to complicate it and create more anxiety, or more stuff that you had to worry about, or just stuff that's going to backlog your cognitive space. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Conscious Consumption. I'm once again joined by my esteemed colleague and traveler, Mike Rasley. I think we're going to kind of just jump back in to where we left off last time. And we were kind of highlighting some of the specific tactics that you can use to combat a dopamine addiction or just digital fixation with anything that really has its fangs in you. So I think we started off or we ended basically talking about different techniques for like visualization and reflection. One specifically, I think, too, when you are kind of just like dealing with something specific, is just kind of keeping the drawbacks that you that come with giving into it top of mind. Like for example, I'll use drinking because that's one that applies to me. And it's just like the inhibited REM sleep and inability for growth hormone release while you're sleeping when you go to bed, like, even slightly still intoxicated. Also just like eating within 2 or 3 hours of sleeping in order to like really digest as much food as possible so your body's like able to actually repair itself and it's not worried about or like focused on metabolism. Um, and also just like reflecting on, I think we actually talked about this a little bit last time, but reflecting on like how you wouldn't be worse off. In fact, maybe you would be better off if you were to abstain from something, specifically like while you're laying in bed, scrolling Instagram or stuff, getting all that stimulation and blue light exposure, how that also would impact sleep quality. I know we talked about last time just like how important sleep is for us. It's kind of like one of the cornerstones to make all of these other things like um, less appealing, I guess. If you have quality sleep, you're more liable to eat healthier, engage in different things, exercise, all of that stuff. Um, and I think I also talked about we were talking specifically at when we ended about how just like reflecting on individuals who had the biggest impact in your life, and or on society, just kind of like using them as role models to determine how you conduct yourself. Specifically, like, I mean, it's pretty easy to imagine John Lennon. See what I did there? Um, fixing like a few drinks in the afternoon, but like if you think about him like binging TikTok or like gorging on dessert, it's gonna probably like hopefully help you to be like, all right, well, I'm gonna like summon my willpower and resist. these things that I have fixations for.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think like when you think about these people, these role models, there's a reason why they're role models, right? Like they've done something great, and all these people, they have so much focus on their craft that they don't have time for bullshit, right? Like people, if you watch people that are really at the top of their game, they literally do not have time for bullshit. They don't even have time to talk to people. They don't have time um to probably use, if they're really focused, if they're super hyper focused. Um, I'm trying to think. It was a letter that was written by this super creative guy. Or sorry, it was I can't even say his name. Nihai Csikszentmihalyi had written a letter to this creative guy, and he wanted to know the creative process. And the guy wrote him back a letter like saying, "Look, I don't even have time. I don't even know about the creative process. All I know is that I have my God's gift and I just keep doing it. And I spend a lot of time, right? I know nothing about creativity and everything about productivity. So I don't have time to like do an interview with you, right? Which is like super interesting. Like
Mhm.
all the time that we waste doing all these little things, right? And I think most of it is just because we don't actually know what our main thing is, or we're too afraid to commit to one thing.
Yep.
And
I dealt with that problem for years,
yeah,
personally.
it's very normal. I'm interested in a lot of different things. So that's my problem. But a lot of it is a topical view. For instance, energy work, qigong, yoga, um, photography. A lot of these things I know enough to be dangerous, but I haven't gone super deep into them.
Yeah. Well, and all of those things, it's like it kind of falls into a basket too. You know what I mean? Like, maybe photography a little bit is more like on the artistic end of the spectrum, but like if you just can like think of that one thing as like your discipline, like energy work, it helps to kind of break it down like that, right? I would think.
Yeah, so like having your main focus of like saying I want to maybe just master communication or something like this, or I want to just master enlightenment or something
Yeah.
like that. Like that's my main focus for this life. Then I have that focus. Is that what
Right.
you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, um, you can it can be like an all-encompassing thing, like I don't know. It makes it easier to just like not get overwhelmed with it by saying, "Oh, I'm putting all my energy here and I also want to put all my energy here." If you can find a way to just like categorize that as one thing, it's like you can still use so much like creative output or so much of your energy on multiple facets of it.
Yeah, for sure. I also, where I'm at right now, I really like to, and I'm still, man, I'm in the throes of a lot of social media use, like maybe an hour a day, which for me is a lot. And just constantly checking my phone. And yeah, I still think that for me to have a focus is really helpful. So like for instance, I'm doing a nutrition course. That's one of my things, right? My health and wellness is like kind of my life kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so that's really helped me to give focus to my day. Like I start out really early, do my 1 hour, and I'm just trying to finish this certification. And so I have that one thing in the background. I also think that that's really important is like having your main focus. This last month I was in Barcelona, and my deal was I wanted to be social and to meet people. So I was specifically meeting new friends, meeting girls, and was very focused on that for 6 weeks or sorry,
Mhm.
4 weeks. Very focused on that, right? So I also think that chunking is really important too. When we do something, like go all in on like a.
Yep.
I know there's certain schools that do that too. Like for instance, they do a full semester and you just do like one topic or two topics or something.
Yep. Yeah,
And
it's like that's something I did want to talk about too, is just like omnitasking versus multitasking. And just like try to put all of your energy into one thing at a time and try to put all the other things, worries, concerns, things you need to do to the back of your mind. And just like if you're able to do that, how much better it is in terms of just like um the encoding of it. So you're able to remember things a whole lot better. And it's just like really helps you get into the flow state too and um bring whatever other benefits come with it, and relaxation, um, stuff like that.
yeah, for sure. Um, so in that realm, let's just say that we were going to focus because we've talked about detoxing. I want to know what you think a digital detox for yourself would look like. Like, what are the guardrails that you would put on it? Because again, this is something like I'm very serious about creating
Mhm.
eventually. And our talks have really helped me to think about a lot of different aspects of this, of detoxing, right? Because what's the why? What are the benefits? What are some of the things that you can do? But I'm interested to know, like, if you're willing to talk about it briefly, what a detox would look like for you and what you think, what an impact you think it would have on your life.
Well, I think we've actually touched on this a little bit before, but I think I would say it would be like boredom therapy kind of, which is like, so you have different types of solitude. You obviously have like physical solitude where you're confined in a space by yourself. Could be living as a hermit or whatever, or off in the woods, like meditating for, how many ever years like monks do. But I think it's just like in terms of dopamine or digital detox, I would think of it more as like mental solitude. So just like absence of stimuli that's created by other humans, specifically um, stuff that's has a visual component to it. So like anything that would be on social media, like um, even music to a degree, for me can be like overstimulating because I'm always trying to like throughout the course of my day, it's like I always, when I have the time, want to be listening to music. And a lot of it is just like anxiety is like, what do I want to listen to? Like, I want to save this on Spotify when I'm listening to it instead of like just being present and listening to an entire album, and just letting it play through. I'm always like, all right, what playlist can I add this to? Save it to my Discogs want list, whatever. Um, Stuff like that. And also just like I would say, and when you are engaging with stuff that has a digital component to it, it would be more like making that your primary focus, not having a podcast playing in the background while you're eating breakfast or like washing the dishes, listening to music, stuff like that. Just really again going back to that omnitasking thing where because you can only focus on so many things at once, right? Like, I think it's for me personally, it's like two things. And as soon as I bring a third thing into the equation, I always try to make everything I do a meditation. Obviously, sometimes that's easier said than done because there's all sorts of things that are coming into your environment that you have no control over. But like, as soon as I bring a third element into it, I kind of come out of my body because I always try to like I said, make it a meditation and just keep that body awareness of my, environment around me while I'm engaging with it. But as soon as like I said, some comes into the picture, like I already used the example of like eating while you're listening to a podcast or whatever. But like when I'm doing that, it makes it really tough for me to just like stay with the body. Um, and I guess the second part of your question, some of the benefits that come with that is just, I think I already kind of said in terms of omnitasking, like it really helps you process the information, remember it later. And it also helps like if you're trying to like do something that's you're building a skill like playing the piano or something like that, if you can really get in the flow, like your improvement is going to be so much better. Than if you were to be distracted the whole time, it's going to take you a lot longer to progress. Um, if you're in a social atmosphere and you're staying off your phone, obviously, um, it offers the benefit of being able to connect with people, which we've talked about before, is gives you a lot more substantial, um, considerable serotonin and oxytocin than if you're on Instagram liking somebody's stories, like I think we've also said that too. That can actually create some dissonance there, and make you feel definitely lower your self-esteem versus just connecting with people that like are around you that you maybe necessarily wouldn't engage with otherwise, that are outside of, your like social circle, really can offer a lot of benefit. And then kind of going off that too is like if you can, I think service is a really big thing too, just like giving and generosity, especially giving of your time. But if you can combine that with like just social interaction with other people in the real world, like that's like the ultimate serotonin boost to me. Um, yeah, and then, again, other benefits too, just like the self-confidence that comes with it when you're not using a device as a crutch, like anytime you make eye contact with somebody walking down the street, you don't just like defer to your phone. Um, gives you the self-confidence to just be yourself in social settings. And finally, too, just the benefit would be maybe just like a cognitive refresh. Um, get back to like tap into, as I think you mentioned earlier, just I don't remember what you said specifically, but like who you're meant to be or who you really are deep down, and start like generating some original thoughts that aren't just like part of the echo chamber of social media.
Yeah, that highest version of yourself.
That's what it was.
That's what we talk about too. Like, obviously, we all want to get back to that. Like, we've all had a time in our life where we kind of knew we were the highest version of ourselves. We're on track. We're doing all the things that are really solid, and we're getting somewhere. Probably we have a goal of some sort, and we're focused on that. Would be my guess. And it sounds like for you, a big part of it is like de-stimulating and specifically visual too, which I woke up at 3:30 this morning, straight to the gram, and was like, because I'm up so early,
What
right,
happened? You relapsed?
dude? What else do I
Yeah,
get?
because you're probably jet lagged still, right?
No, I'm not jet lagged, but it's 3:30 a.m. and it's like, what are you doing at 3:30 a.m.? I don't know. I'm not going to start my day.
Oh, and
So
you just can't fall back asleep, you're saying?
hmm?
You just at 3:30 you can't fall back asleep.
Yeah, I was just kind of up, so I've been up and I stayed up. Yeah, so, but and it's like 12:40 now. I can feel the impact of that, right? I can feel that I'm a little bit tired. Granted, it's early, but to put the images, I think that's a really good one. Put the images of other people in your mind first before you do any of your own work, before you do any of your like yogi, like
Yeah.
blocking out the world is literal insanity, right? Like it's 3:30 a.m. So what? I can't meditate. So what? I can't do yoga. In my mind, I think, oh, it's too early to get out of bed,
Right.
but not, right? So yeah, I like the visual thing, and that's something that I've been trying to do too, is like no YouTube on my phone anymore. So that's a super success. Um, and I think, yeah, if we can get into that state of, again, destimulating and being in our bodies more, like you're saying, two things at once, one thing if possible, right?
Yeah, ideally.
Listening to that playlist, I'm not trying to drop it into a playlist, which I'm super about. Like, I'm really in like a techno phase right now, and I'm trying to like, I've never gone super deep into techno, but I want all the bangers. Like, I'm making a banger playlist
Right.
and a fucking banger playlist so I can like relive it, right?
Right.
Uh, but then it takes away from that.
Immersion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, ideally one thing, it's just like I don't especially like for example, eating, it's just like I got to the point where I didn't want to do anything else besides just sit there and eat. No other distractions, no other stimulation. Um, just because like so much anxiety comes from like when you're trying to multitask, at least for me personally. And it's like it got to the point where I was overstimulated where it just was like the only way it seemed to benefit me or I could bring myself back down was just doing one thing at once. And when you do that with, especially during meals, it's like you can taste the complexities of the food. You're tasting the food in your mouth, chewing it, you're feeling yourself metabolizing or digesting the food because it's like you're actually in the parasympathetic rest and digest state instead of parasympathetic fight or flight state. Um, and yeah, coming back to like the best version of yourself too. There's one thing that I really took to heart from James Clear, and I don't know if it was in Atomic Habits or not, but it's just like reflecting on the best part of your day, like the best 5 minutes of your day, and trying your best to recreate that day after day. And like I said, I was like so overstimulated. Like it was really challenging for me for years to just sit and meditate or like do a standing meditation when I came home from work for like more than 5 minutes. But like I just got so oversaturated with stimulation that it was like that was the best part of my day was like coming back home to wind down, do a little standing meditation, some self massage to work out all the tension that I had built up and all the shit that got stuck in me, often voluntarily over the course of the day. Um, was really like the only way that the best, obviously for sure the best part of my day. Um, And I think when you're able to reflect on those things that really do bring you solace the most, you can tell, like you said, what you think that you're supposed to do and what you really should make your life's work, I guess, too.
What should makes your life work, like your purpose, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. What you should do with should make your profession or your discipline.
Yeah, there's a guy that I really like. Highly recommend this book. It's called The Joy of Genius. And then I think the other one's called like, I don't know, The Quantum Leap or something like that. But The Joy of Genius, he talks about like imagine what your life would be like if you spent 70% of your day in genius mode. So genius mode is basically just not being in bullshit mode. Genius mode is like, I feel good. I'm stoked about what I'm doing. Um, I mean, that's a game changer, right? Just to even imagine what that would be like. 70% of my day is in like creative genius mode.
Mhm.
That's sick, right? That reality of even thinking like that is amazing. I recently asked a friend, what percentage of people do you think like live above like 70% super stoked all day? And he was like, yeah, maybe like 50%. But like in my world, it's like
No
eight.
way, dude.
You think
I was
lower?
gonna say like less than five.
Really? Okay. Yeah, maybe. I mean,
I mean, because if you think about it, I don't know. I would just think most people are working a full-time gig and like they're fine with it because they have a family and support system and like are have enough money to get by and stuff. But like I would think the vast majority deep down, it's not necessarily doing something that like not that they don't feel fulfilled, but just like it's not their reason for being or their soul's purpose. But could be higher than that. That's what I would guess.
right. Yeah,
Ideally, it'd be 100%.
and it's an interesting question to ask people too, because I really want to know, like I want to spend time with people that are I'd say like 70 or above, like if possible. If possible. I don't think it's as possible like right now, maybe. Because where I'm at, I'm like I think I'm 70. I'm right on the line. I'm right on the line. Um I'd like to be closer to 80, like 80-20. But it's an interesting question to ask because it does tell you about people. And obviously, I get it. Like you said, you're working a job, this kind of stuff, but Yeah, I think the mindfulness thing is vital. If you can just live in mindfulness, like I truly think being enlightened is like the greatest, most boring thing in the world. Like imagine you're enlightened and like I'm just touching this cup and there's not a second that I'm like not with this cup
Not in
touching
the moment. Yeah.
and I'm not even there's coffee in the mug, but I'm not thinking about the coffee. I'm just fully with it and feeling everything. And then the coffee hits and I just taste it and I take a sip. And the caffeine doesn't even, I'm not even in it for the caffeine. I'm just in it for flavor. I'm just in it for the moment. Like, it's got to be so boring, I would think. It's just got to be like the most boring thing that exists. Like, you're tying your shoe and you're like stoked about tying your shoe.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's an offshoot. That's a
Well,
total.
no, because I mean, I agree with you too. And it's like I said, I was so overstimulated. The only way that I really felt good was just like doing that, just having that sole focus being whatever was present in front of you, and not adding more things to complicate it and create more anxiety, or more stuff that you had to worry about, or just stuff that's going to backlog your cognitive space. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's for sure tough. I was, I guess you could say, fortunate to like get to that point where it wasn't tough for me anymore because there was so much other shit that was just like weighing me down. Um, let's see.
I think that's how a lot of us find stuff like yoga and qigong and this kind of stuff because we hit a point and it fucking just gets us somehow. Like for me, I wasn't sleeping. I was working a lot. I was stressed, and I did my first few yoga classes, and I started like shavasana at the end of the class. I started just sinking down into this space of like beyond, like it was just a beyond space. It was in between sleep and like it was like this bliss realm that wasn't quite sleep, and I was fully aware and fully present. And I had done the work to get there too. I had twisted my body, I had stretched it, I had strengthened it, and I just fell into that space. And I remember going into those classes thinking, I want abs, I want six pack abs, right? And what I got was something so much deeper. Because I was stressed, I just dropped right into it, right? And I think
Hmm.
that that is the magic of mindfulness, right? When we really are stressed and we really need it, it's always there for us.
Yep. Yep. And I think too, just like going back to what we were saying last time about like just hitting that one thing in terms of like to bring you back to balance, or to like, to deal with all these like fixations or addictions that you have, just focusing on one thing so it's not super overwhelming and you're more likely to stick with it. But I think like mindfulness trumps everything, dude. Like just when you're able to just like stay present and feel your intuition, like it becomes so much easier to not give in to temptations, like, and if you do indulge, like try to stay with yourself in the moment, and like that will help you realize when enough is enough. Like I know last time you talked about minimal effective dose, just um in terms of like constructive activities, just like meditating for 5 minutes or whatever, or doing chunking like 5 minutes set aside to like clean your room or whatever. But I also like wanted to look at it from a different standpoint of moderation, just like, and if you can stay mindful and just like let's stay in tune with your intuition, like it makes it so much easier to just like, for example, drink a cup of coffee slowly and realize when I'm caffeinated enough before I get to the point where I'm going to have the jitters. And for me it's usually like a 4 ounce cup or maybe a 6 ounce cup, and after that it's like I'm going to start to get anxious. And the way that you realize that or get that insight is just staying mindful and trusting your intuition. Same thing with like listening to a podcast, like I said, um, just being mindful, only doing that. And like, no, after 30 minutes, that's probably good enough. I got a lot of good insights. I want to remember and really like deconstruct the stuff that I did learn, 30 minutes is good for me. And like same thing with just like watching an episode of a sitcom. Like one episode is plenty. Like you get those endorphins that are released when you're laughing at stuff, and like that's enough visual stimulation for me as a half an hour, and like, and if you realize that like you're coming out of yourself and you're not really able to keep meditating anymore, like that helps as well too.
For sure. Yeah, I think I like the minimal effective dose in any which way you look at it. That's for sure how I mean it too, is like, man, anything works, right? If I want to start smoking again and I know that just having a cigarette will be better than me starting again, I just really want one. I've been wanting one for 2 months. Fine, fucking have it, dude. Have it. And then you're good for another 2, 3 months, right?
Right.
That's for me, yeah, I'm totally with you. And I think that applied, especially if you don't have serious addiction, is super workable, right? It's super manageable to do something like that and to just allow yourself to go into something like that and to know your limits, right?
Right.
30, good, okay, cool. And to keep revisiting too. Like we talk about guardrails, just keep revisiting. You're never going to be perfect ever.
Right. Again, dude, I think just reflection, reflection, reflection in terms of how you're feeling, in terms of like your goals, where you want to be, like, but positive self-reflection over negative self-rumination always, even though that can be challenging. So I think we're about to run out of time. You want to keep going?
Let's finish her up. I think that's pretty good for our fourth session for sure.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And then maybe if you're into another one, we can pick up where we left off. Maybe wrap it up after that one and move on to a different topic at long last.
Yeah, and I actually get my digital detox stuff going.
Yeah, right. All right, Rasley, well, appreciate it as always, and I'll be in touch.
Thank you, conscious consumption.
All right, later, dude.
Yeah.